Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now September 8th of 2023, and if we take a look at what's been going on with Disney, given that there's a lot of shakeups happening between the Disney Board of Directors and Bob Iger, a lot of this, by the way, is rooted back to the stocks hitting a 9-year low and just continue to keep getting worse and worse. They're already looking for a top candidate to replace Bob Iger eventually that's going to be more strict with their DEI agenda, somebody that they feel would be better fit to drive stocks up again and to bring it back to normalcy. We'll have to wait and see exactly what transpires, and that's actually a plan that they do have for 2024. They have 3 candidates that they have in mind that could very well replace Bob Iger. However, when we look at Snow White 2024, I always say this could very well be the ironic film release that could really end Disney where they all started back in 1937 with the movies. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. And let's get right into exactly what's going on with Peter Dinklage. Now, you guys may or may not recall, but back in February of 2022 is when the whole drama between Peter Dinklage and Disney began. And as it turns out, we covered this yesterday, he was rejected a role for one of the 7 dwarfs at the time for Snow White 2024 before Disney changed things over to making them into magical creatures of all different heights, genders, and let's not forget, races. Now, we know that a lot of things are happening right now. A lot of different things are happening with Disney and Snow White and how Peter Dinklage views them as a company. This is where matters get even worse, is that with Snow White 24 going through much damage control by Disney to this day, one major development has to do with actor Peter Dinklage and even Rachel Zegler. Specifically, Dinklage is reportedly enraged with the ongoing Snow White backlash and negative response to the film that has occurred since the leaked photographs, to the point where he is getting ready to defend actress Rachel Zegler and the comments that she made about the original that have been getting backlash from people. Dinklage, who is working with Zegler and the co-star of the Hunger Games prequel, is already pre-planning a series of comments and statements to release to the general public for Snow White 2024 and his disgust with how people reject Rachel Zegler and her views of Snow White. His statements are already in the process of being created and written ahead of when the SAG strike and the WGA strike comes to a close. As it turns out, both Dinklage and Rachel Zegler became very close friends after filming the Hunger Games prequel. Dinklage reportedly took it very personally and has a growing distaste with the general public on how they rejected Zegler's comments about Snow White 1937. Now again, here's the problem with this. The fact that Dinklage is siding with Rachel Zegler and her comments about the overall structure of the Snow White live-action remake, it goes to show you that he is indeed another one of the individuals trapped in the Hollywood echo chamber, in the Hollywood sphere, as I like to call it, where they all pretty much parrot each other, right? We know that Rachel Zegler said some pretty dumb things about Snow White. Actually, really stupid things about Snow White. You know, saying things like Snow White 1937 is, something that she rejected throughout her whole life, and how she always felt that the prince was a creeper for trying to create this romance with her, and all these weird things that she said. You know, literally, weird. We all remember that thing that she said there. Dinklage is siding with all of that, and he's actually disgusted with the general public, basically, about what people think of Zegler based on her comments about Snow White 1937 and the current 2024 film, regardless of Dinklage and his growing issues with Disney, still to this day, based on what happened between himself and the Disney higher-ups, and not giving him any Marvel roles anymore because of what happened with Snow White. But the fact that he is really siding with her comments and trying to make it openly clear eventually that, yeah, the general public is wrong and Rachel Zegler is right, it just goes to show you that he is another person that has lost his mind and is really just siding with the worst people in this world. Now, moving onwards, this is where things unravel further, is that the prince being a creeper and more is something that, ironically, Dinklage does agree with. Essentially, Dinklage is defending every word that Rachel said to the general public and is on her side through and through. The statements that he is preparing, once the strikes end, are described to be ready to blast the naysayers of this movie, and it's something he already prepared with his manager and agent ahead of time. Whether these statements make their way before or after the film is highly dependent on the strikes. Regardless, Dinklage 100% supports every word and belief that Zegler has about Snow White and is infuriated with the backlash against Zegler and even Disney's actions of firing and removing her from the Snow White sequel that was axed. The one taking place after 2024, mind you. The story and even the actors of the magical creatures, regardless of Peter's issues he had with Disney in the past over Snow White, he is also disgusted with that, and how they turned down a role for him as well before he blasted Disney on the record. So the fact that he is also disgusted with how the general public view the leaked photographs of the 7 magical creatures, it goes to show you that he doesn't really know what he's talking about. He's bouncing back and forth. He doesn't really know which side to take from what it sounds like. To me, it just sounds like he's hopping on a bandwagon. I'm not quite sure. But at the end of the day, we know that Disney is in a very tough spot right now. And once these statements do release online, like I said before, is highly dependent on when these strikes end, because SAG actors, they really can't say much right now. You know, you have directors talking, producers talking, that's about it. But writers and actors, they're not saying a word about their upcoming movies, about their upcoming TV shows, etc., etc. And so, Dinklage, I think, is going to get a lot of heat from the general public by siding with Zegler. I think it's only going to make matters worse for Disney if these statements do arrive before Snow White hits theaters. And again, even if it hits after it hits theaters, these statements are still going to ruin his career, I feel, whatever's left of it. And it's also going to tarnish Rachel Zegler even more so. I think it's going to be one of those scenarios where it really is a catch-22. There really is no escape out of this atrocity of a movie that's just gonna be a disaster. It deserves to be direct-to-video, or better yet, it deserves to be shelved and locked in a vault forever. Hence, quote, Brendan Fraser with Batgirl. You guys may recall Brendan Fraser went on Howard Stern, and whether you love or hate Howard Stern, he actually asked a very important question. Where is the movie? Brendan Fraser says, it's locked in a vault somewhere. That's what needs to happen to Snow White 2024. They need to lock it up and keep it in the dark forever. That's what needs to happen. And so I think that at the end of the day, they're not going to save their image. They are going to make matters worse. So anyway, guys, drop a comment below. Fill me below in the comments what you all have to say about this. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
Night to moon,